Why have the 49ers struggled to defend mobile quarterbacks? Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show. We'll hit that video next. The sponsor of today's video is Mojo Fantasy. Mojo Fantasy has introduced a whole new way to play fantasy football this year. It works by entering into contests and building a portfolio of players. The better your portfolio performs, the more cash you win. It's simple. The props you pick act like stocks. You can buy and sell player stock live all game long. You can cash in on a hot start or just hang on and let them ride. Pick as many props as you want and try to beat the crowd. And of course, if you want to play Mojo Fantasy alongside me, check the link in the description. All right, the 49ers take on the New York Giants tonight. And one of the major parts about trying to defend the New York Giants is defending the mobility of their quarterback, Daniel Jones, who is an absolute phenomenal runner, despite the fact that he's about 6'5" and 225 pounds. Jones is a great runner. And this has been a trend in recent years. Mobile quarterbacks have historically given the 49ers a lot of problems. Last year, the 49ers' losses on the year were to the Bears, the Broncos, the Falcons, and the Chiefs. And what do those teams all have in common? Mobile quarterbacks. The Bears have Justin Fields. The Broncos have Russell Wilson. The Falcons have Marcus Mariota. The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. Now, in fairness, Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes are future Hall of Famers. And Wilson has owned the Niners going back to his days in Seattle. And let's talk a little bit about why I think the 49ers have struggled against mobile quarterbacks. One, first of all, you got to go case by case and game by game. And there's always situations in all these games. But let's just take Russell Wilson for a second. Russell Wilson in the head-to-head matchups against the 49ers, at least once a game in Seattle and even in Denver, will hold the ball for like 10 seconds and just break down the entire defense. And the Niners have had some guys who are just too big to really sack Russell. Now they have Javon Hargrave, but they've been leaning on Eric Armstead. They've been leaning on Javon Kinlaw. They've been leaning on some big-bodied guys in the middle that just have a hard time corralling Russell Wilson. And so he's out there doing figure eights, and he would break them down. And ultimately, his figure eights and his holding the ball for 8, 9, 10 seconds, all you need to do is do that once or twice a half, and you can break down a defense completely. What happened against Russell is that the Niners would almost stop rushing him. They would basically turn to what I would call like a mush rush, where they'd get out of their stance, and then they wouldn't even rush him. They would just kind of put their hands up and just everybody kind of stay home. And it basically, after a while, his mobility and his ability to get out the side door would just force them to just stay home. So you didn't want to overrush and give them a big avenue to run through. So a lot of times you just come out of your stance and you're just standing there trying to bat passes down. And he was the one quarterback that would just hold the ball, break your entire defense down. It's really tough to play. You could have Deion Sanders and the greatest corners that ever played. You could have whoever the greatest corner is. If you want to say it's Rod Woodson and Deion Sanders, you could have Rod Woodson and Deion Sanders in their prime. And if a quarterback can hold the ball for 8, 9, 10 seconds, those guys are not going to be giving it. They're not going to be able to hold coverage. You can't mirror an NFL wide receiver all over the field for 10 seconds. You just can't do it. It cannot be done. So that's one of the things that's happened with Russell Wilson, is that he just breaks them down at least once a game, and then breaks contain. And then when they do get real aggressive and maybe they give him a lane, he takes it and he goes. So that's the struggle there. With Justin Fields, he's got 4.4 speed. And, he made a couple plays with his legs in Chicago, busted plays. What the Niners have focused on defense in recent years is play fast, play physical. But what they really need to do against mobile quarterbacks is have a coordinated effort and play smart and not give them any rushing lanes. And a guy like Fields in the game at Chicago last year, while it was dry, he took a couple lanes and just took off. And with 4.4 speed, he's got home run hitting ability. With Marcus Mariota, That was the struggle against Mariota last year in that Atlanta game is Atlanta played extreme ball control, and they used Mariota on the read option, where he was holding the mesh point on the read option handoffs, and then sometimes handing it off, and then sometimes running himself, working parallel to the line of scrimmage, and he was just converting on third downs, because the Niners would just have a difficulty locating the ball. When you have the read option, to defend, you have to find the ball. You have to find the ball, and you have to read the mesh point. And we've seen teams do what Mariota and the Falcons did last year, where they hold the mesh point and make you commit either to the back or to the quarterback. And it puts a lot of pressure on the defense, especially in short yardage. So that, I thought, was what made Mariota so difficult to. And Mariota was a big man, 6'4", 220. So you're not thinking of him as a runner. And then all of a sudden, here he comes. He's coming around the edge. And he ran for a number of first downs in the matchup in Atlanta last year. And then there's Mahomes. And Mahomes is not looking to run for first downs except for when the game's on the line in the fourth quarter. And it seems like, not just against the Niners, if you watch Patrick Mahomes, he gets loose in the fourth quarter of games. If you give him an avenue, he kind of reminds me a little bit, or Brock Purdy reminds me of him. They remind me of each other in that they're both pocket passers who want to pass. And when they use their mobility, they use it to get to another part of the pocket, stay behind the line of scrimmage, and still are looking to pass. So they're looking to break, contain, and to extend plays and make late in the down throws as the coverage breaks down. The key is with Mahomes is you can't give him an avenue when the game's on the line, because he will take it. And that's the same thing that we've seen from Brock Purdy. You give Brock Purdy a lane to run in the fourth quarter. He did it against the Steelers. Got a lane, 7 minutes on the clock. He wants that first down. He gets the first down. He burns another 3 minutes off the time, and his team wins the game. And we've seen Mahomes do that time and time again against the Niners, but against other teams as well. All right, let's talk about what the Niners do on the back end. They play a lot of cover 3 zone. They're a heavy zone team. And when you play a zone defense and a quarterback breaks contain or extends the play, a lot of times, it's just becomes kind of almost like a wide open game situation where, you're now defending 2 patterns. You're defending the play that was designed in the huddle, and you're defending the play that's off script, and it creates a helter-skelter feel. And when you're playing in a zone with a single safety in the deep middle, it's easy to have gigantic holes. So maybe you want to go a little bit more man-to-man. The Niners haven't had the corners to match up necessarily man-to-man, but they may want to go more man-to-man tonight against Daniel Jones in some of those key third down situations. Now, if you do go man-to-man, that means that everybody's covering somebody, and if the quarterback takes off, you've got to have somebody who's spying him or somebody who's got an eye on him, because everybody's heads are turned with their backs to the quarterback at that point. They're playing coverage. So I understand why the Niners have wanted to play zone, but what happens with some of these quarterbacks that break contain, suddenly it becomes just a random can the quarterback and his receivers run off-script plays better than you have an ability to balance your zone and balance the field with defenders, and it's just ripe to be picked apart, or it's a bad opportunity to give up a chunk yardage play. So now tonight they have Daniel Jones, and Jones is a big guy with a huge arm, but he also can really, really run. He's got incredible straight line speed. So the big difference, I think, with Mahomes is kind of like Mariota. You have to take proper angles. You see a 6'4", 6'5" quarterback, you're thinking he can't be that fast. You got to remember that, yeah, he's 6'4", 6'5", but he runs exceptionally fast. So it's really important that you take proper angles. I'm going to be really interested to see how the Niners defend a mobile quarterback with Steve Wilks, because Wilks has not been the defensive coordinator here in recent years. This is year 1. He also likes to play a lot of cover 3 when they go zone, but we saw in the second half last week he manned up a little bit. If the Niners decide they want to man up to get tighter coverage on Waller and Hodgins, 2 outstanding route runners, does Jones take off? And if Jones takes off, does Greenlaw or Warner spy him And are they able to neutralize him, or does he get big gains? So to me, this might be the biggest factor in this game tonight. Without Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones knows that he needs to play like he played in the second half against the Arizona Cardinals. He had some big chunk yardage plays down the field to Hyatt, but he also had some really big runs for first downs, and he ran for almost 60 yards on the ground in the second half of that game. So tonight's going to be very, very interesting. But I think you're looking at the 49ers. Will they play zone and just try to keep a good eye on Jones? Will they play man at times, try to spy Jones? It's going to be really interesting. But the Niners have struggled partially because, some of these quarterbacks, they've had the wrong kinds of defensive linemen. They've had guys that are in that 270 to 315, 320 range. If you're going to have success against mobile quarterbacks, sometimes the best way to do it is to blitz them with defensive backs because they can't get away from defensive backs. They're burning you because they have a speed advantage. You counter that speed advantage by sending smaller, faster, more agile rushers at them. And to me, that's what I'll be looking for in this game. Wilkes loves to blitz his linebackers, but it may be the game where they should blitz some corners and try to attack Jones with smaller, faster guys that he can't elude or sidestep. I thought that's what I've seen through the years has had the most impact on Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes, is instead of rushing him with 270-pound defensive ends and 315-pound defensive tackles, see if you can rush them with smaller guys, linebackers or DBs, and then they have a harder time getting away, and you now have a speed advantage. I'll be looking for that tonight. All right, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Thanks to all you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.